An 84-year-old stranger asked for my number. Now she won't stop calling. Welcome back and enjoy the story. The chatter of silverware against plates and the low hum of conversation filled Marino's, a cozy Italian restaurant in downtown Chicago. Amanda Parker tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear and sipped her wine, savoring the rare moment of solitude. At 35, moments like these were precious treasures stolen between the chaos of raising two children as a single mother and building her freelance graphic design business from their apartment. The autumn rain tapped gently against the windows, creating a soothing backdrop to her thoughts. She'd chosen a small table near the back, her notebook open beside her plate as she sketched ideas for her latest project. The warm lighting cast a gentle glow around her, creating a barrier of comfort that made her nearly invisible to the other diners. That invisibility vanished when Amanda felt a presence hovering beside her table. She looked up to find an elderly woman standing there clutching a weathered purse with thin, veined hands. The woman couldn't have been more than 4'9", her small frame slightly stooped with age. Despite her diminutive stature, there was something commanding about her presence. "Excuse me, dear," the woman said, her voice carrying a slight tremor. "I was heading out, but I wondered, might I sit with you for a moment?" Amanda hesitated, noting the woman's reddened eyes and the slight quiver of her chin. Something in the elderly woman's expression stirred her compassion, a profound loneliness that seemed to radiate from her like a physical force. "Of course," Amanda replied, closing her notebook and gesturing to the empty chair across from her. "Please join me." "That's very kind of you." The woman lowered herself carefully into the seat, wincing slightly as she did so. "My name is Fiona Wilson. Amanda Parker. Nice to meet you, Fiona." Fiona's hands trembled slightly as she set her purse on the table. "I don't usually do this sort of thing, bother strangers, I mean, but I saw you sitting alone and I couldn't face going home just yet." Amanda signaled to the waiter. "Would you like something to drink? Coffee, perhaps?" "Tea would be lovely, if it's not too much trouble." As they waited for Fiona's tea, an uncomfortable silence settled between them. Amanda studied the older woman, noting the pearl earrings that seemed too heavy for her delicate earlobes, the outdated but meticulously maintained floral dress, and the wedding ring that hung loosely on her finger. "Do you come here often?" Fiona asked, her eyes darting around the restaurant. "Once a month or so," Amanda replied. "It's my little ritual when I need some time to myself." "And I've gone and interrupted it," Fiona said, a flash of guilt crossing her weathered features. "Not at all. Sometimes unexpected conversations are exactly what we need." The tea arrived, and Fiona wrapped her gnarled fingers around the warm cup. "My Gerald and I used to come to places like this, not this exact restaurant, mind you, but similar ones. He liked to take me out on Friday evenings, said a lady should be treated to dinner at least once a week." Her voice caught on the word lady, and her eyes welled with tears. Amanda leaned forward. "Fiona, are you all right?" The elderly woman seemed to crumple inward, her shoulders sagging as if under an invisible weight. "No," she whispered. "No, I'm not all right at all. Gerald's gone 3 months ago. Heart attack right in our garden. He was planting tulips for spring, you know. Always thinking ahead, my Gerald." "I'm so sorry for your loss," Amanda said, the words feeling inadequate against the magnitude of Fiona's grief. 57 years we were married," Fiona continued, as if she hadn't heard Amanda's condolence. 57 years, and now I don't know who I am without him. I wake up reaching. For him, I make tea for 2. I find myself talking to an empty chair. She looked up at Amanda, her pale blue eyes swimming with tears. "I think I might be losing my mind." Amanda reached across the table and covered Fiona's hand with her own. "You're grieving. That's normal after losing someone you've loved for so long. Is it normal to feel like you're drowning every minute of every day? Fiona asked, her voice barely audible. I think I need help. Psychiatric help, perhaps. Well, I wouldn't even know where to begin. Have you spoken with your family about this? Your children? A shadow crossed Fiona's face. I have a daughter, Gloria. She's a good girl, deep down. But her husband, Edward, she shook her head. He's a controlling man, keeps her on a tight leash, doesn't approve of me, thinks I'm a burden. I rarely see her these days. As their conversation continued, minutes stretched into hours. Amanda found herself drawn into Fiona's life story. Growing up in rural Illinois, meeting Gerald at a dance in 1958, their struggles to have children before Gloria came along, Gerald's career as an accountant, the small joys and heartbreaks that made up their decades together. There was something captivating about the woman's memories, a vivid quality that made Amanda feel as if she were watching a film unfold rather than listening to an elderly woman talk. By the time they realized how late it had grown, the restaurant had emptied considerably. Darkness had fallen outside, and the rain had picked up, drumming against the windows with increased urgency. "Oh dear," Fiona said, glancing at the ornate watch on her wrist. "I've kept you far too long. You must have better things to do than listen to an old woman ramble on." "Not at all," Amanda assured her, though she was acutely aware of the babysitter. At home with her children. "It's been a pleasure talking with you." They gathered their belongings and made their way to the entrance. When the host opened the door, a gust of cold, rain-laden wind rushed in, causing Fiona to shrink back. "Oh my," she murmured, clutching her coat tighter around her small frame. "It's gotten rather nasty out there." Amanda hesitated, glancing at her watch. It was past 9. And the streets were dark except for the glow of street lamps reflecting off wet pavement. The thought of this frail woman navigating the slick sidewalks alone made her uneasy. "Where do you live, Fiona?" "Just a few streets over, Maple Avenue." "I could walk you home if you'd like," Amanda offered, already calculating how much extra she'd need to pay the babysitter for the additional time. Fiona's face lit up. "Would you really? I'd be so grateful. These old legs aren't what they used to be. And with the rain—" She reached out and squeezed Amanda's arm. "You're an angel, dear." They stepped out into the rain, Amanda holding her umbrella over both of them as they walked slowly along the glistening sidewalk. Fiona clung to Amanda's arm with surprising strength, chattering nervously about the weather, the restaurant, anything but the overwhelming solitude that awaited her at home. When they reached Fiona's house, a small, well-maintained brick bungalow with a carefully tended garden, Fiona fumbled with her key, her hands shaking either from the cold or from something deeper. "There we are," Amanda said as the door swung. "Open, safe and sound." Fiona didn't let go of her arm. "Would you like to come in for a bit? I could make some hot chocolate, or perhaps you'd prefer something stronger. I have cake, too. Gerald always liked to keep sweets in the house." "That's very kind, but I should be getting back. I have children at home," Amanda explained gently. "Oh, children. How wonderful. How many? Boys or girls?" Fiona's eyes brightened with genuine interest. "2. Emma is 7, and Noah is 5. "Beautiful ages," Fiona murmured, "when everything is still magical." Amanda smiled and began to step back, but Fiona's hand shot out, grasping her wrist. "Before you go," she said, her voice taking on a note of desperation, "could I possibly, would you mind terribly, if I had your phone number, just in case I need someone to talk to? Sometimes the nights are so long, and I—" She broke off, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. "Never mind, I'm being ridiculous." Amanda hesitated only briefly before the compassion that had led her to this moment prevailed again. "It's not ridiculous at all. Here, let me put my number in your phone." Fiona produced an outdated flip phone from her purse, and Amanda entered her contact information, already feeling a twinge of uncertainty even as she did so. "Thank you," Fiona whispered, clutching the phone to her chest like a talisman. "You've been so kind to an old woman tonight. It was my pleasure, truly. Take care of yourself, Fiona." As Amanda turned and walked away, the rain seeping through her coat and the night air chilling her skin, she couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just occurred, that her life had shifted in some subtle but profound way. She glanced back once to see Fiona still standing in the doorway, a small, solitary figure illuminated from behind, watching her disappear into the darkness. She had barely reached the end of the block when her phone began to vibrate in her pocket. Amanda ignored the first call as she hurried through the rain, mentally calculating the quickest route back to her apartment in Lincoln Park. The rain had subsided to a drizzle, but the autumn wind had picked up, carrying a bitter chill that seemed to settle into her bones. She quickened her pace, checking her watch again. Lisa, her regular babysitter, would be understanding about the delay, but Amanda hated taking advantage of the college student's good nature. 15 minutes later, as she was stepping onto the bus, her phone vibrated again. This time she glanced at the screen. Fiona Wilson. With a sigh, she let it go to voicemail, settling into a seat near the back of the nearly empty bus. She'd call Fiona back once she was home and had relieved the babysitter. Surely the elderly woman would understand. The apartment was quiet when Amanda finally unlocked the door, finding Lisa dozing on the couch with a textbook open on her lap. The young woman stirred as Amanda closed the door behind her. "Sorry I'm late," Amanda whispered. Lisa waved off the apology, stifling a yawn. "No problem. The kids were angels. They've been asleep since 8. After paying Lisa and seeing her out, Amanda checked on her children. Emma lay sprawled across her bed, strawberry blonde hair fanning across her pillow, her expression peaceful. In sleep. In the next room, Noah was curled into a tight ball, his favorite stuffed dinosaur clutched against his chest. Amanda gently adjusted their blankets, then retreated to the living room, sinking onto the couch with a weary sigh. Her phone vibrated again. Fiona, for the 3rd time. With a reluctant groan, Amanda answered. "Hello? Amanda! Oh, thank goodness! I was beginning to worry." Fiona's voice crackled through the speaker, oddly vibrant for this time of night. "I'm sorry I missed your calls. I was getting home to my children." "Of course, dear, of course. I just wanted to thank you again for our lovely conversation and for walking me home. It meant the world to me. You're welcome, Fiona. It was nice meeting you. And you as well, dear. You have a kind soul. I could tell that right away." There was a pause, and Amanda thought the conversation might be ending. But then Fiona continued, "I've made up the guest bedroom, just in case you ever want to bring those little ones of yours over. Children love my garden, especially the koi pond. Gerald installed it 15 years ago, and I've maintained it meticulously since." Amanda blinked, taken aback by the presumption. "That's very thoughtful, but—" "And I've been thinking about what you said about your graphic design work. I have so many photographs that need organizing. Perhaps you could help me put together a memorial album for Gerald. I'd pay you, of course." I mainly do corporate work," Amanda stammered, feeling increasingly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "We can discuss it when you visit. When might that be, do you think? Tomorrow, or perhaps Sunday would be better for you, with the children's schedules?" Amanda felt a flicker of alarm at the speed with which this relationship was accelerating. "Fiona, I'm not sure when I'll be able to visit. My schedule is quite packed with work and the kids." "Oh." The disappointment in Fiona's voice was palpable. "Well, I understand. Busy young life and all that. Perhaps next week, then?" "I'll have to check my calendar and get back to you," Amanda said, trying to gentle her growing unease with a practical response. "Very well. I'll let you get some rest. Good night, dear Amanda." "Good night, Fiona." Amanda had barely set her phone down when it vibrated again. With a growing sense of exasperation, she answered, "Hello again, Fiona. I forgot to ask, do your children have any food allergies? I was thinking of baking cookies tomorrow, and I'd want to make something they could enjoy when you visit. No allergies, but really I can't commit to a visit right now." Of course. Just planning ahead. Gerald always said I was a planner." Fiona's voice hitched slightly. "He used to joke that I had backup plans for my backup plans." Despite her frustration, Amanda felt a twinge of sympathy. "He sounds like he was a wonderful man." "The best," Fiona whispered. "The very best. I'll let you go now. Sweet dreams, Amanda." This time, when the call ended, Amanda turned her phone to silent mode and placed it face down on the coffee table. She needed a hot shower and sleep, not another interruption from her new acquaintance, however well-intentioned. The next morning brought chaos, as Saturday mornings often did in the Parker household. Emma had soccer practice, Noah wanted pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, and Amanda had promised to review a design proposal for a new client before noon. She was halfway through breakfast preparations when she remembered her phone, still face down on the coffee table. When she finally checked it, she found 8 missed calls from Fiona, all within a 2-hour window early that morning, and 3 voicemails. With the children bickering in the background over the last of the apple juice, Amanda pressed play on the first message. "Good morning, Amanda. It's Fiona. I'm an early riser, always have been. I thought perhaps you and the children might like to come for brunch today. I make excellent blueberry muffins. Gerald used to say they were better than his mother's, though he'd never have admitted that to her face." A soft laugh, followed by a pause. "Call me back when you get this." The second message had come 30 minutes later. "Amanda, it's Fiona. Again, I realized I didn't tell you what time would be good for brunch. Any time after 9 would be wonderful. I'm already starting the muffins, and I thought I'd make a quiche as well. Do call back, dear." The third message left at 7:45 a.m. "Amanda, I'm a bit concerned that I haven't heard from you. The muffins are done and the quiche is in the oven. I do hope everything is all right. Please call me as soon as you can." The growing desperation in Fiona's voice sent a chill down Amanda's spine. This wasn't normal behavior, especially for someone she'd met just yesterday. She hesitated, trying to decide how to handle the situation, when her phone began to vibrate in her hand. Fiona again. With a deep breath, Amanda answered. "Hello, Fiona." "Oh, thank goodness. I've been so worried. Are you and the children all right?" "We're fine. Just having a busy morning. Fiona, I appreciate the invitation for brunch, but as I mentioned last night, I can't commit to visiting right now. My schedule is very full." "But the quiche," Fiona protested, her voice small, "and the muffins. I made them especially for you and the children." Guilt tugged at Amanda's conscience, but she held firm. "I'm sorry, but I should have been clearer. Last night, while I enjoyed meeting you, I'm not available for social visits right now. Between my children and my work—" "I understand," Fiona interrupted, her tone suddenly cool. "You're too busy for an old woman. It's fine, dear, I'm used to it. That's not what I—" No, I completely understand. Young people have their lives to live. Don't give it another thought." The dramatic shift in Fiona's demeanor left Amanda feeling off balance. "Perhaps we could meet for coffee sometime next week, at the restaurant where we met?" There was a long pause before Fiona replied, her voice warming again. "That would be lovely, dear. Shall we say Monday at 10? I'd need to check my work schedule. Why don't I call you on Sunday to confirm?" "Perfect. Oh, I'm so looking forward to it already. I'll bring a photo of Gerald to show you. He was such a handsome man, even in his 80s. After they hung up, Amanda stood in her kitchen, a spatula dripping pancake batter onto the floor as she tried to process what had just happened. The conversation had left her with a lingering sense of unease, a feeling that she'd somehow been manipulated despite her best intentions to maintain boundaries. "Mom, Noah's putting syrup in my hair." Amanda sighed and turned back to the chaos of her family breakfast, pushing thoughts of Fiona to the back of her mind. She had more immediate concerns to deal with. The day passed in a blur of activities: soccer practice, grocery shopping, a play date for Noah, laundry that seemed to multiply every time she turned her back. By evening, Amanda was exhausted but satisfied with the productive day. The children were bathed and in their pajamas, ready for their Saturday night tradition of pizza and a movie. As Amanda settled on the couch between her children, the pizza box open on the coffee table and How to Train Your Dragon queued up on the television, her phone lit up with another call from Fiona. She silenced it without a second thought, determined to enjoy this precious time with her family. But the calls continued, one after another, until Amanda finally put her phone in another room to avoid the distraction. Whatever Fiona wanted, it could wait until tomorrow. Later that night, after the children were in bed, Amanda retrieved her phone to find 12 missed calls and a series of increasingly distressed text messages. "Amanda, are you there? Please call me back. It's important. I'm not feeling well, could use someone to talk to. Amanda, please, I think I might need help. I'm so alone." The last message, sent just 10 minutes earlier, made Amanda's stomach clench with worry. "I don't know what to do anymore. Gerald would know, but he's gone." Concern overriding her irritation, Amanda called Fiona back. "Hello?" The older woman's voice was faint, almost inaudible. "Fiona, it's Amanda. Are you all right? Your messages sounded urgent." "Oh, Amanda." The relief in Fiona's voice was palpable. "I thought perhaps you were ignoring me. I was spending time with my children. Is everything okay?" "Not really, no." Fiona's breath hitched as if she were fighting tears. "I had a bad spell this evening, dizzy, heart racing. I thought perhaps it was a heart attack like Gerald. I was scared." "Did you call 911? Amanda asked, instantly alert. No, it passed. But it made me realize how vulnerable I am here, all alone. If something happened to me, no one would know for days, perhaps weeks." Amanda frowned. "What about your daughter? Gloria, wasn't it?" "Gloria hasn't returned my calls in 3 days. Edward probably has her phone again." Fiona's voice dropped to a whisper. "I think he monitors her calls, controls who she speaks to." An uncomfortable silence stretched between them. Amanda couldn't tell if Fiona was exaggerating, paranoid, or if her daughter truly was in a controlling relationship. Either way, the situation was becoming increasingly complicated. "Fiona, I think you should consider reaching out to a doctor or perhaps a senior services organization. They might be able to help you find resources for—" "I don't need an organization," Fiona interrupted, a note of steel entering her voice. "I need a friend, someone who sees me as a person, not a problem to be solved." Amanda closed her eyes, feeling the weight of Fiona's expectations settling on her shoulders. "I understand that, but I'm not sure I'm the right person for this. We just met, and I have so many responsibilities already." "Of course," Fiona said, her tone turning brittle again. "I'm just another burden. Another responsibility you don't need." "That's not what I meant." No, you've made yourself quite clear. I won't bother you again." The line went dead before Amanda could respond. She stared at her phone, a mixture of guilt and frustration swirling in her chest. Part of her wanted to call back immediately and apologize, to reassure Fiona that she did care, but another part, a more cautious voice, warned her that this relationship was already showing unhealthy patterns of emotional manipulation. Amanda placed her phone on the nightstand and got ready for bed, hoping that a good night's sleep would bring clarity to the situation. But as she lay in the darkness, listening to the soft sounds of her children sleeping down the hall, she couldn't shake the image of Fiona alone in her house, surrounded by memories of a life that no longer existed, reaching out desperately for connection to a world that seemed to have moved on without her. If you are enjoying the story, type 5 in the comments and subscribe for more videos like this. If not, type 0. It helps me create even better content for you. Continuing. Sunday morning dawned bright and clear, a perfect autumn day with crisp air and golden sunshine filtering through the changing leaves. Amanda woke early, determined to get ahead of her work so she could fully enjoy the afternoon with her children. She tiptoed past their rooms, starting the coffee maker before settling at the kitchen counter with her laptop. She had managed to lose herself in work for nearly an hour when her phone began to vibrate across the counter. Fiona's name flashed on the screen. Amanda hesitated, the memory of last night's conversation still fresh in her mind. Part of her wanted to ignore the call, to pull back from this increasingly complicated relationship. But concern and a genuine worry for the elderly woman's well-being won out. "Hello, Fiona," she answered, keeping her voice low to avoid waking the children. "Amanda! Oh, I'm so glad you answered. I was afraid—" Fiona's voice trailed off. "Well, never mind that. I wanted to apologize for last night. I was not myself. The anniversary of Gerald's death is approaching, and I find myself becoming more emotional as the date draws nearer." Amanda's irritation softened. "I understand. Fiona, grief isn't linear. You're very wise for someone so young," Fiona said, a smile evident in her voice. "Are you free today by any chance? The weather is so lovely. I thought perhaps you and the children might enjoy seeing my garden. The chrysanthemums are at, their peak right now." Amanda suppressed a sigh. "I'm afraid today isn't possible. The children have plans with their father this afternoon." It wasn't entirely true. Kevin wasn't picking them up until 3, but Amanda needed to establish some boundaries. "Their father? You didn't mention you were married." "I'm not anymore. We've been divorced for 3 years." "Oh." Fiona paused, and Amanda could almost hear her processing this new information. "That must be difficult for you, raising 2 young children on your own." "We manage," Amanda said, not wanting to get into the details of her failed marriage with a virtual stranger. "Kevin is a good father and we co-parent well enough." "Kevin," Fiona repeated as if testing the name. "Not a name I've ever been fond of, to be honest. Too modern. In my day, men had substantial names. Gerald, Edward, Richard." Amanda wasn't sure how to respond to that, so she changed the subject. "Fiona, about coffee tomorrow. I checked my schedule, and I could meet you at Marino's around 11, if that works for you." "Oh, that would be wonderful. I'll be there with bells on, as they say." Fiona's enthusiasm bubbled through the phone. "I've been thinking about our conversation, and I have so many questions about your graphic design work. Gerald always said I should have pursued art. I had quite a talent for watercolors as a young woman, you know." "I look forward to hearing about it," Amanda said, glancing at the clock. 8:30, the children would be up soon. "I should go, Fiona. The kids will be awake any minute and Sunday is pancake day." Of course. Traditions are important in families. My Gerald and I had Sunday roast dinner every week for 57 years, rain or shine." Fiona's voice took on a dreamy quality. "Even during the blizzard of 79, he managed to get a roast. Walked 3 miles in knee-deep snow to find an open butcher. He sounds like he was very devoted to you." "He was the best of men," Fiona said, her voice cracking slightly. "I'll let you go now, dear. Enjoy your pancakes, and I'll see you tomorrow at 11. Amanda had barely ended the call when Emma appeared in the doorway, her hair a wild tangle around her sleep-flushed face. "Mommy, who were you talking to?" "Just a new friend," Amanda replied, still not sure how to categorize Fiona. "Ready for pancakes, sleepyhead?" Emma nodded enthusiastically, the question already forgotten, as she climbed onto a stool at the counter. "Can we have chocolate chips in them today?" I don't know. That seems like a pretty big request." Amanda pretended to consider it seriously, tapping her chin. "What do I get in exchange for this chocolate chip upgrade?" Emma giggled. I'll clean my room without complaining. Deal. Go wake your brother, and we'll get started. As Emma scampered off, Amanda began gathering the pancake ingredients, pushing thoughts of Fiona to the back of her mind. Today was for her children, and she intended to be fully present for them. The morning passed pleasantly with pancakes, cartoons, and a trip to the park to take advantage of the beautiful weather. By the time they returned home for lunch, Amanda felt refreshed and centered, the stress of the past 2 days fading in the simple joy of her children's laughter. She was in the middle of making grilled cheese sandwiches when her phone rang again. Without checking the caller ID, she answered, tucking the phone between her ear and shoulder as she flipped a sandwich in the pan. "Hello? Amanda? It's Gloria." "Wilson." Amanda frowned, momentarily confused before making the connection. "Gloria, Fiona's daughter." "Yes." The woman's voice was tense, clipped. "I understand you've been in contact with my mother." "That's right. We met at Marina's restaurant on Friday evening." "And you gave her your phone number?" The accusatory tone in Gloria's voice made Amanda bristle. "She asked for it, yes. She seemed lonely and upset about your father's passing." Gloria sighed, a sound heavy with what might have been exhaustion or exasperation. "Ms. Parker." "Amanda, please." "Amanda, then. I feel I should warn you about my mother. She's not well." Amanda turned off the stove and moved the pan to a cool burner, giving the conversation her full attention. "Not well physically or mentally," Gloria clarified. "Ever since my father died, she's been unstable, paranoid, making accusations, creating elaborate stories." A cold feeling settled in Amanda's stomach. "What kind of stories?" "She tells people I'm being abused by my husband, that Edward is controlling and isolates her from me." Gloria's voice tightened. "The truth is, Edward has been nothing but supportive. He's the one who found her the best grief counselor in Chicago, who drives her to appointments, who fixed her roof last month and refuses to let her pay him back." "I see," Amanda murmured, though she wasn't sure she did. "Fiona did mention feeling that your husband limits your contact." "That's exactly what I'm talking about." Gloria's frustration was evident. "Edward works from home 3 days a week. Specifically, so he can be available if my mother needs anything. He answers her calls at all hours. But because he suggested, gently I might add, that calling at 2 in the morning, unless it's an emergency, isn't appropriate, she's decided he's controlling me." Amanda thought back to the multiple calls she'd received from Fiona in just the 2 days since they'd met. "She has called me quite a lot. And that's with someone she just met. Imagine what it's like for family." Gloria lowered her voice, as if someone might overhear. "The truth is, Amanda, my mother has been diagnosed with the beginning stages of dementia. It's mild right now, but the doctor said her grief is accelerating the symptoms. She has good days and bad days." The information clicked into place like puzzle pieces, explaining Fiona's rapid emotional shifts, her clinginess, her difficulty respecting boundaries. "I'm so sorry, Gloria. That must be incredibly difficult for all of you." "It is. We're trying to convince her to move to a senior living community where she'd have more support and social interaction, but she refuses, says we're trying to get rid of her." Gloria paused. "Look, I'm not calling to make you feel bad for being kind to my mother. Kindness is what she needs right now. But I wanted you to understand what you're dealing with, and to ask you, well, to be careful about getting too involved." "Too involved?" "My mother has a history of latching on to people, store clerks, bank tellers, even the postal carrier. She overwhelms them with attention, calls, gifts. When they inevitably pull back, she feels betrayed and rejected. It's a pattern that's gotten worse since Dad died." Amanda glanced into the living room where her children were playing, a sense of unease growing in her chest. "I'm meeting her for coffee tomorrow. Should I cancel?" No, no, like I said, social interaction is good for her. Just maintain your boundaries. Don't make promises you can't keep. And if things get too intense, please call me. Gloria rattled off her phone number, which Amanda quickly jotted down on a notepad. Thank you for letting me know, Gloria. I appreciate your honesty. Of course. And Amanda, thank you for being kind to her. Despite everything, she's still my mother, and I want her to have people in her life who care. After they hung up, Amanda stood in her kitchen, the grilled cheese sandwiches cooling on the counter as she processed the conversation. Suddenly, Fiona's behavior made more sense. The rapid attachment, the emotional manipulation, the paranoia about Gloria's husband. But understanding the reasons behind Fiona's actions didn't make the situation any less complicated. Mom, we're hungry. Noah's voice broke through her thoughts, reminding her of her immediate responsibilities. Coming, sweetie, she called back, pushing the troubling conversation with Gloria to the back of her mind. She would deal with Fiona tomorrow, armed with new information and perhaps a clearer understanding of how to navigate this delicate relationship. That evening, after the children had gone with their father, Amanda found herself alone in the apartment, the silence almost oppressive after a weekend filled with activity and noise. She curled up on the couch with a glass of wine and her laptop, determined to finish reviewing the design proposal before morning. Her phone rang just as she was settling in. Fiona again. Amanda hesitated, Gloria's warnings fresh in her mind, but eventually answered. Hello, Fiona. Amanda, dear, I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Fiona's voice was bright, almost artificially so. Just catching up on some work. Is everything okay? Oh yes, everything's fine. I just wanted to confirm our coffee date tomorrow, 11 o'clock at Marino's, correct? That's right, Amanda replied, noting that this was the third time Fiona had confirmed their meeting. Wonderful. I've been looking through old photo albums all afternoon, picking out the best pictures of Gerald to show you, and I found some of my watercolors from the 60s. They're not much to look at now, all faded and yellowed, but they meant something once. Amanda made an encouraging sound, unsure of what else to say. I spoke with Gloria today, Fiona continued, her tone shifting slightly. She mentioned that she called you. Amanda sat up straighter, surprised. Yes, she did. I suppose she told you I'm losing my mind. Fiona's voice had taken on an edge that Amanda hadn't heard before. That I'm delusional, paranoid. That poor Edward is a saint for putting up with his crazy mother-in-law. Amanda chose her words carefully. She mentioned that you've been having a difficult time since Gerald passed away. A difficult time, Fiona repeated with a bitter laugh. Is that what she calls it? My entire world collapsed when Gerald died. 57 years together, and suddenly I'm alone in a house full of memories and silence. Her voice cracked. Do you know what that's like, Amanda? To lose the person who's been your other half for nearly 6 decades? No, Amanda admitted softly. I can't imagine. No, you can't. No one can unless they've lived it. Fiona sighed, a sound that seemed to come from the depths of her soul. Gloria thinks I need to be medicated and monitored, tucked away in some facility where I won't embarrass her or inconvenience her precious Edward. I'm sure that's not... Did she tell you about the dementia diagnosis? Fiona interrupted. About how I'm rapidly declining and can't be trusted to know what's real anymore. Amanda hesitated. She did mention some concerns about memory issues. One doctor, one assessment on a day when I was particularly upset because it would have been our anniversary. Fiona's voice was tight with indignation. Suddenly, I'm incompetent and imagining things. I'm sorry you're going through this, Amanda said, genuinely sympathetic despite her growing unease. You believe me, don't you, Amanda? You can see that I'm perfectly lucid. A bit lonely, perhaps. A bit sad, but not crazy. Amanda felt trapped between honesty and kindness. I think grief affects people in different ways, and sometimes it can be hard for others to understand what you're experiencing. There was a long pause before Fiona responded, her voice suddenly small and vulnerable. I need someone on my side, Amanda. Someone who sees me as I am, not as a problem to be solved or a burden to be managed. The naked desperation in Fiona's voice tugged at Amanda's heart, but Gloria's warnings echoed in her mind. I understand, Fiona, and I'm happy to be your friend, but I also need to be clear about my boundaries. I have children and work responsibilities that need to come first. Of course, dear, I would never want to impose. The brittleness was back in Fiona's tone. I'll see you tomorrow at 11. Sleep well. The line went dead before Amanda could respond. She sat in the quiet of her apartment, the wine forgotten beside her, feeling as though she'd just navigated an emotional minefield without being entirely sure she'd made it through unscathed. Monday morning arrived with a steady drizzle that matched Amanda's mood. She'd slept poorly, her dreams filled with confused images of Fiona and Gloria, their voices overlapping as they told contradicting stories about reality. As she dressed for her coffee meeting, she considered cancelling, sending a text with a polite excuse about work or childcare. But something, compassion, curiosity, or perhaps just a sense of obligation, prevented her from taking the easy way out. Marino's was quieter on a Monday morning than it had been Friday night. Amanda arrived a few minutes early, selecting a table near the window where she could watch for Fiona's arrival. She ordered a cappuccino and tried to organize her thoughts, to decide how to approach this complicated new relationship. At precisely 11 o'clock, the restaurant door swung open and Fiona stepped inside, shaking raindrops from a floral umbrella. She looked different today, more put together, with carefully applied makeup and a stylish raincoat that belied her age. She spotted Amanda immediately and made her way over, her smile bright, but her eyes wary. "Amanda, dear, so lovely to see you again." She settled into the chair across from Amanda, placing a large envelope on the table between them. "I brought the photos I mentioned, and a little something for your children." She produced a small paper bag that Amanda suspected contained homemade cookies. "That's very thoughtful, Fiona, but you didn't need to." "Nonsense! I enjoy baking, and it gives me purpose to have someone to bake for." Fiona waved over a waiter and ordered Earl Grey tea before turning back to Amanda. "Now, I suspect Gloria filled your head with all sorts of concerns about my mental state." Amanda blinked, taken aback by Fiona's directness. "She's worried about you. She's always been a worrier, even as a child. Gets that from her father." Fiona's expression softened with the memory. "Gerald was a worrier too. Always checking the locks twice, making sure the stove was off before we left the house, keeping emergency supplies in the car trunk just in case." "That sounds like he was very protective of you and Gloria." "He was." Fiona's eyes misted slightly, the best protector a family could ask for. She opened the envelope and slid out a stack of photographs, selecting one from the top. "This was our wedding day, June 18th, 1958. Amanda looked at the faded color photograph of a young couple standing on church steps. The groom was tall and slender, with a serious expression that couldn't quite conceal his joy. The bride, unmistakably a young Fiona, was radiant in a modest lace gown, her smile wide and uninhibited in a way that the current Fionas never quite managed to be. "You were beautiful," Amanda said sincerely. "And Gerald was so handsome. All the girls were after him, but he chose me." Fiona's voice held a note of wonder, as if she still couldn't believe her good fortune after all these years. "We had nothing when we started out, a tiny apartment with second-hand furniture and big dreams, but we were so happy." She continued, "Through the photos, Gerald and Fiona on vacation in Florida at Gloria's high school graduation, holding a newborn grandchild, celebrating their 50th anniversary. A lifetime captured in snapshots, telling the story of a love that had endured through decades of joy and hardship. "The last photo I have of him," Fiona said, her voice dropping to a whisper as she handed Amanda a more recent picture. Gerald, now elderly but still maintaining that same serious yet joyful expression, stood next to Fiona in a garden, his arm around her shoulders. "Taken 3 days before he died. He looks like he was still very much in love with you," Amanda observed, noting the way Gerald gazed at Fiona rather than the camera. "We were lucky that way. The love never faded. It changed, evolved over the years, but it never diminished." Fiona carefully returned the photos to the envelope. "That's why his absence is so unbearable. We were never apart, not really, not in 57 years. Amanda reached across the table and squeezed Fiona's hand gently. "I can't imagine how difficult this must be for you." "No one can," Fiona said, echoing her words from the night before. "Not even Gloria. She thinks she understands, but she can't. Edward isn't Gerald. Their marriage isn't what ours was. Every relationship is different," Amanda offered neutrally. "Indeed." Fiona's expression darkened slightly. "Some relationships are built on control rather than love." Amanda treaded carefully. "Gloria seems to think that Edward has been very supportive since Gerald's passing." Fiona's laugh was brittle. "Edward has been very careful to maintain that. Appearance, yes. He drives me to appointments, fixes things around the house, but it's all for show. He wants Gloria to think he's being the dutiful son-in-law while he systematically isolates her from me." "What makes you believe that?" Amanda asked, genuinely curious. "Little things. Phone calls that go straight to voicemail when I know she's home. Text messages that sound nothing like Gloria, too formal, too cold. The way he always seems to be hovering in the background when we do speak, monitoring the conversation." Fiona leaned forward, her eyes intense. "And bigger things too. Last month, I fell at home. Nothing serious, just a bruised hip. But I called Gloria for help. Edward answered and said she was out shopping. When I finally spoke to Gloria 2 days later, she had no idea I'd fallen. He never told her." Amanda frowned. "If true, that was concerning behavior. Have you spoken to Gloria directly about this?" "I've tried, but whenever I bring up concerns about Edward, she gets defensive, accuses me of trying to undermine her marriage like I supposedly did when they were first dating." Fiona sighed heavily. "I made some mistakes back then, I admit. I didn't think Edward was right for her. But I've tried to make amends, to support their relationship. Gerald always said I needed to let Gloria make her own choices, even if I didn't agree with them." "That sounds like wise advice." "Gerald was always wise," Fiona said with a sad smile. "I miss his guidance now more than ever." She stirred her tea absently. "Amanda, may I ask you something personal?" Amanda nodded cautiously. "Your divorce, was it amicable?" The question caught Amanda off guard. Not initially, no. There was a lot of anger and hurt on both sides. But over time, for the children's sake, we found a way to be civil, even friendly sometimes. "And he's a good father to Emma and Noah?" "Yes," Amanda said without hesitation. "Whatever issues were between Kevin and me, he's always been devoted to the children." Fiona nodded, thoughtfully. "You're fortunate in that. Some men use their children as weapons after a divorce, ways to control or hurt their ex-wives." Amanda shifted uncomfortably, sensing the conversation was moving into territory that felt both personal and potentially manipulative. "Fiona, I'm not sure I understand why you're asking about my divorce." Fiona retreated slightly, her expression apologetic. "I'm sorry, dear. I don't mean to pry. It's just, I see in you someone who understands hardship, who knows what it means to lose. Someone you love, even if the circumstances were different. I suppose that's true, Amanda acknowledged, though the comparison between her divorce and Fiona's widowhood felt strained at best. And I've been so lonely since Gerald died, Fiona continued, her voice taking on that vulnerable quality that Amanda was beginning to recognize as either genuine distress or skilled emotional manipulation. She still couldn't decide which. Gloria has her own life, her own family. She doesn't have time for weekly visits or long phone calls. And my friends, well, at my age, friends become scarce. Some have died, others moved to be near their children, many are in nursing homes. Have you considered joining a grief support group? Amanda suggested. The hospital where my mother volunteers runs several excellent programs. Fiona waved the suggestion away. I've tried one. It was depressing, sitting in a circle with other old people, all of us talking about what we've lost. I left feeling worse than when I arrived. What about a senior centre, something with activities, classes, and full of old people playing bingo and making potholders? Fiona said dismissively. I may be 84, Amanda, but I still have my wits about me. I want meaningful conversation, not patronizing activities designed to keep the elderly occupied. Until we die. Amanda suppressed a sigh, sensing that every suggestion would be met with a similar rejection. What would help, Fiona? What do you think would make this time easier for you? Fiona's eyes met Amanda's, intense and almost hypnotic in their directness. Friendship, real friendship with someone who sees me as a person, not just an old woman. Someone like you, Amanda. The weight of Fiona's expectation settled on Amanda's shoulders like a physical burden. I would like to be your friend, Fiona, but as I mentioned before, I have limitations on my time and energy. Of course, dear. I understand completely. Fiona smiled, but the expression didn't quite reach her eyes. I'm not asking for much. Perhaps a weekly coffee, an occasional phone call. Maybe someday you might feel comfortable bringing those lovely children to visit my garden. Put that way, it didn't sound unreasonable. And yet, Amanda couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning, that any ground she ceded would quickly be overtaken by increasing demands for time and emotional energy. I think a weekly coffee might be possible, she said carefully. We could try that and see how it goes. Fiona's face lit up with genuine pleasure. That would be wonderful. Amanda, truly wonderful. You have no idea what this means to me. As they finished their drinks and prepared to leave, Amanda felt a complex mixture of emotions, compassion for this lonely woman who had lost her life partner, wariness about the potential for manipulation, and a nagging guilt that she might not be doing enough to help someone in genuine need. Same time next Monday? Fiona asked as they stood outside the restaurant, huddled under the awning to avoid the persistent drizzle. That should work, Amanda agreed. I'll text you if anything comes up that might change the plan. Perfect. Fiona hesitated, then stepped forward and embraced Amanda briefly. Thank you, dear, for listening, for caring. It means more than you know. As Amanda watched Fiona walk away, a small figure beneath her floral umbrella, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just made a commitment far more significant than a weekly coffee date. There was something in Fiona's neediness, in her desperate grasp for connection, that suggested this relationship would not be easily contained within the neat boundaries Amanda hoped to establish. Her phone buzzed with a text from a client, pulling her attention back to her workday responsibilities. She pushed thoughts of Fiona aside and headed toward the office space she rented 2 days a week, trying to ignore the sense that her life had somehow shifted on its axis since that chance meeting at Marino's 3 days ago. What does that elderly woman actually want from you? Is she seeking something more sinister than simple companionship, or are her desperate attempts at connection merely the flailings of a lonely widow struggling to find meaning in a world that has moved on without her? The answers remain elusive, hidden behind layers of contradictory stories and emotional manipulation that leave you questioning not just Fiona's motives, but your own judgment. The week passed in a blur of deadlines and domestic routines, with Fiona's presence hovering at the periphery of Amanda's consciousness like a persistent shadow. True to form, Fiona called daily, sometimes multiple times, but Amanda had begun letting most calls go to voicemail, returning them when it was convenient for her, rather than dropping everything to answer. It was a small boundary, but an important one. Friday afternoon found Amanda hurrying through a grocery store, trying to complete her shopping before picking up the children from school. Her phone rang as she was debating between two breakfast cereals, and she answered without checking. The caller ID, assuming it was the school. Hello? Amanda, it's Gloria Wilson. The woman's voice sounded tense, strained. Do you have a moment? Amanda abandoned her cart in a quiet corner of the cereal aisle. Yes, what's up? It's my mother. She's been telling people, neighbors, her doctor, even her hairdresser, that you and she have become very close friends, that you visit her several times a week, that you're bringing your children to see her this weekend, that you're helping her organize a memorial service for my father. Amanda closed her eyes briefly. None of that is true. We had coffee once on Monday and agreed to meet again next week. That's all. I figured as much, Gloria sighed. She's been doing this more and more, elaborating on minor interactions until they become significant relationships in her mind. The problem is, she believes these stories completely. If you were to confront her about it, she would be genuinely confused and hurt. What should I do? Amanda asked, feeling increasingly out of her depth. That's why I'm calling. Edward, and I think it might be best if you pulled back from the relationship. You mean cut contact completely? If possible, yes. Gloria's voice softened. I know it sounds harsh, especially after you've been so kind to her. But these fantasies aren't healthy, and they're becoming more elaborate. The last thing we want is for her to become fixated on you and your children in a way that could eventually lead to real disappointment or distress for everyone involved. Amanda thought about the multiple daily calls, the emotional highs and lows, the way Fiona seemed to swing between grateful appreciation and subtle manipulation. I understand your concerns, but I'm not sure disappearing suddenly would be good for her either. You're probably right, Gloria admitted. Perhaps a gradual withdrawal, fewer calls, postponed meetings until the connection naturally fades. As much as part of Amanda wanted to extricate herself from this complicated situation, another part, the part that had been raised to respect and care for the elderly, that recognized the profound loneliness in Fiona's life, resisted simply, walking away. Let me think about the best approach. We're supposed to meet for coffee on Monday. I could use that opportunity to establish clearer boundaries. That might work, Gloria said, though she sounded doubtful. Just be careful not to make promises you can't keep. With her condition, she latches onto the smallest hope and builds elaborate scenarios around it. After ending the call, Amanda stood motionless in the cereal aisle, the mundane task of grocery shopping suddenly overwhelming in the face of this ethical dilemma. How did one balance compassion with self-protection? Where was the line between genuine human connection and unhealthy attachment? She was still pondering these questions that evening as she prepared dinner, half listening to the children's chatter about their school day. Emma was describing an art project with animated enthusiasm when the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," Noah volunteered, sliding off his chair before Amanda could stop him. "Noah, wait! You know you're not supposed to open the door without me," Amanda called, hurrying after him. She reached the door just as Noah was turning the knob, gently moving him aside. "Let Mommy check who it is first, remember." When she peered through the peephole, her heart sank. Fiona stood in the hallway, clutching her purse with both hands, her expression expectant. "Who is it, Mommy?" Emma asked, appearing at Amanda's elbow. "It's a friend," Amanda replied, uncertain how to handle the unexpected visit. She opened the door part way, keeping her body positioned to block the children from view. "Fiona, this is a surprise. I hope you don't mind the unexpected visit," Fiona said, her smile bright but her eyes anxious. "I was just feeling a bit lonely this evening and thought perhaps you and the children might like some company. I brought cookies." She held up a small tin. "Chocolate chip, homemade this morning." Amanda hesitated, caught between hospitality and caution. "That's very thoughtful, but we're just sitting down to dinner." "Oh, perfect timing then. I haven't eaten yet either." Fiona made a slight movement as if to step forward, clearly expecting to be invited in. "Fiona, I'm sorry, but this isn't a good time for a visit. The children have homework after dinner, and I have work to finish tonight." Fiona's face fell, her disappointment so palpable that Amanda felt a stab of guilt, despite knowing she was setting a reasonable boundary. "Who's the old lady, Mom?" Noah asked loudly from behind her. "Noah, that's not polite," Amanda admonished, gently. "It's quite all right," Fiona said, peering around Amanda to catch a glimpse of the children. "You must be Noah, and that pretty girl must be Emma. I'm Mrs. Wilson, a friend of your mother's." Emma stepped forward, always the more socially confident of the two. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Wilson. Did you really bring cookies?" "Emma," Amanda warned, but Fiona was already handing the tin to the little girl. "I certainly did. Special ones just for you and your brother." "Thank you," Emma said, accepting the tin. "They smell amazing." "Well, they should. It's my Gerald's mother's recipe, and she was known throughout Illinois for her baking." Amanda gently guided Emma back a step. "That's very kind of you, Fiona. We appreciate the thought." "Perhaps I could come in just for a quick cup of tea," Fiona pressed, her eyes darting past Amanda to the apartment beyond. "I won't stay for dinner if it's inconvenient. The house was so quiet tonight. Sometimes the silence is too much to bear." The naked loneliness in Fiona's voice made Amanda waver, but she thought of Gloria's warnings and held firm. "I really am sorry, but tonight isn't good. Why don't we stick to our coffee on Monday? 11 o'clock at Marino's, right?" "Yes, of course," Fiona said, her voice small. "Monday at 11. I shouldn't have come unannounced. It was presumptuous of me." "It's not that," Amanda began, but Fiona was already turning away. No, you're absolutely right. You have your children to think of and work responsibilities. I understand completely." She straightened her shoulders, dignity reasserting itself. "I'll see you on Monday, Amanda. Enjoy the cookies, children." As Fiona walked slowly toward the elevator, Amanda had to resist the urge to call her back, to invite her in for just a short visit. Instead, she closed the door gently and turned to find both children staring at her. "Why couldn't the cookie lady stay, Mommy?" Noah asked, his brow furrowed. "Because we have plans already, and Mrs. Wilson didn't call before coming over," Amanda explained, guiding them back to the kitchen. "It's polite to call before visiting someone's home." "She seemed sad," Emma observed, setting the cookie tin on the counter. "She is sad," Amanda confirmed, resuming her dinner preparations. "Her husband died recently, and she's been very lonely." "Like when Daddy moved out and you were sad all the time?" Noah asked with the painful directness of a 5-year-old. Amanda paused, caught off guard by the comparison. "A bit like that, yes. But Mrs. Wilson was married to her husband for a very long time, over 50 years, so her sadness is even bigger." "That's forever," Emma said solemnly. "No wonder she's so sad. Maybe we should have let her stay for cookies." "Another time, perhaps," Amanda said non-committally. Now let's finish dinner before it gets cold. Later that night, after the children were in bed, Amanda examined the tin of cookies. They looked perfectly innocent, golden brown with chocolate chips visible throughout. She picked one up, examining it closely before taking a tentative bite. It was delicious, buttery, with just the right balance of sweetness and chocolate. She set the cookie down, troubled by her own suspicion. What exactly did she think Fiona might have done to the cookies? The woman was lonely and socially inappropriate at times, possibly suffering from early dementia, but that didn't make her dangerous. Her phone rang, displaying Fiona's number. With a sigh, Amanda answered. "Hello, Fiona." "Amanda, dear, I wanted to apologize again for dropping by unannounced. It was thoughtless of me. It's all right. The cookies are delicious, by the way. Thank you." "Oh, I'm so glad you like them." Fiona's voice brightened considerably. "They were Gerald's favorites. He always said they could bring a smile to the gloomiest day." There was a pause, and Amanda could almost feel Fiona gathering her courage for whatever she wanted to say next. "Amanda, I've been thinking. I know you're very busy, but I wondered if perhaps you and the children might like to come to Sunday. Lunch this weekend. Nothing fancy, just a simple roast chicken. The house has a lovely backyard where the children could play, and I could show you some of my watercolors. I was quite good once, you know." Amanda closed her eyes, steeling herself. "I appreciate the invitation, Fiona, but we already have plans this weekend." It wasn't entirely a lie. They would be busy with soccer practice and a birthday party. On Saturday, and Sunday was their usual day with Kevin. Of course, Fiona said quickly, though disappointment saturated her voice. "Another time, perhaps, though I do hope it won't be too long. At my age, you see, time isn't something I have in abundance." The gentle guilt trip wasn't lost on Amanda. "Let's talk about it when we meet on Monday, okay? We can look at our schedules and find a good time." "That would be lovely, dear. I'll bring my calendar." Fiona's voice had regained some of its enthusiasm. "Oh, I almost forgot to mention, I spoke with my doctor today about what you suggested, the grief counseling. He's given me some information about a program at Northwestern Memorial, group sessions once a week." "That sounds promising," Amanda said, genuinely pleased that Fiona was considering professional support. "Are you thinking of giving it a try?" "I might, yes, though I'd feel better about it if someone came with me, just for the first session." And there it was, another request, another obligation being gently but persistently pushed onto Amanda's already full plate. "That's something to consider," Amanda said neutrally. "Let's discuss it on Monday." "Yes, Monday," Fiona agreed. "Well, I won't keep you any longer. I know you have work to finish tonight. Sleep well, dear Amanda." After hanging up, Amanda sat on her couch, troubled by the growing complexity of her relationship with Fiona. What had begun as a simple act of kindness, keeping an elderly woman company for dinner, walking her home, had rapidly evolved into something far more demanding, with expectations and emotional entanglements that Amanda hadn't anticipated. And yet, she couldn't bring herself to cut ties completely. There was something about Fiona's loneliness that resonated with her, perhaps reminding her of her own grandmother who had died when Amanda was in college, or perhaps touching on her own fears of aging and solitude. As she prepared for bed, Amanda resolved to use their Monday meeting to establish clearer boundaries, to be kind but firm about what she could and couldn't offer in terms of time and emotional support. It was the right approach, she told herself, compassionate but realistic. But as she drifted off to sleep, her dreams were troubled by images of Fiona standing alone in an empty house, surrounded by memories and silence, watching the hours tick by with no one to talk to, no one to care if she lived or died. Sunday afternoon found Amanda and the children enjoying the autumn sunshine in Lincoln Park, taking advantage of the unseasonably warm October day. Kevin had called that morning to reschedule his time with the kids due to a work emergency, leaving Amanda to improvise a day's entertainment on short notice. The park had seemed the perfect solution: fresh air, space for the children to run, and an excuse to ignore her phone, which had buzzed with Fiona's calls 4 times already since breakfast. Emma and Noah were taking turns on the swings when Amanda noticed a familiar figure approaching along the path. Her heart sank as she recognized Fiona, wearing a pale blue coat and carrying a large tote bag, scanning the playground area with obvious purpose. "You've got to be kidding me," Amanda muttered under her breath. "What is it, Mom?" Emma asked, noticing her mother's sudden tension. "Nothing, sweetheart. Keep playing with your brother for a minute, okay?" Amanda stood and walked quickly to intercept Fiona before she reached the playground, unsure whether this was a coincidence or if Fiona had somehow tracked her location. Either possibility was unsettling. "Fiona!" she called, keeping her voice neutral despite her discomfort. "This is a surprise." Fiona turned at the sound of her name, her face lighting up. "Amanda! What a lovely coincidence. I was just taking my Sunday walk and thought I'd stop to watch the children play. It does my heart good to see young ones enjoying themselves." The explanation was plausible enough. Lincoln Park was a popular weekend destination. But something in Fiona's too bright smile made Amanda doubt it was truly coincidental. "The children and I are having some family time today," Amanda said firmly. "Their father had to cancel at the last minute, so we're making the most of the nice weather." "Family time is precious," Fiona agreed. "I won't intrude." She hesitated, then held out her tote bag. "But since we've crossed paths, perhaps the children might enjoy these. I was planning to bring them tomorrow, but now seems providential." Amanda looked inside the bag to find 3 carefully wrapped packages. "What are these?" "Just a few little things I thought they might like. The larger one is for you, a book of poetry Gerald always found comforting during difficult times. The smaller ones are for the children. Nothing expensive, I assure you, just tokens of friendship." Amanda felt trapped between gratitude and discomfort. "That's very thoughtful, Fiona, but really you shouldn't have." "Nonsense. It gives me joy to give, especially now when there's so little purpose in my days." Fiona's eyes drifted past Amanda to where Emma and Noah were playing. "Those must be your little ones. They're beautiful, Amanda. They have your smile." Before Amanda could respond, Emma had spotted them and was running over, curious about the newcomer. Noah followed more cautiously, half hiding behind his sister. "Hello again, Mrs. Wilson," Emma said politely. "Are those presents?" "Emma," Amanda chided gently, "that's not polite." "It's quite all right," Fiona laughed, her entire demeanor changing. In the presence of the children, she seemed lighter, more animated. "Yes, they are presents. One for you, one for your brother, and one for your mother. May I give them to you?" Amanda hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. She watched as Fiona handed Emma and Noah each a small package. Emma tore into hers immediately, revealing a delicate silver bracelet with tiny charms, a paintbrush, a star, a heart. "It's beautiful!" Emma exclaimed, holding it up to the sunlight. "Thank you, Mrs. Wilson." Noah was more methodical, carefully removing the wrapping paper to find a small wooden box with intricate carvings on the lid. Inside was a collection of polished stones in various colors and shapes. "These are cool," he said, examining a particularly shiny piece of tiger's eye. "Are they real rocks?" "They certainly are," Fiona confirmed. "My Gerald collected interesting stones on all our travels. These are duplicates from his collection. He would want a curious young man like you to have them." Amanda accepted her own gift with murmured thanks, uncomfortable with the intimate nature of these presents for a relationship that was, in her mind, still barely an acquaintance. The book was a well-worn volume of Robert Frost poetry, with certain pages marked by faded ribbons. Gerald read, "Stopping by woods on a snowy evening" to me on our first date, Fiona explained, her eyes misting with the memory. He said the woods reminded him of my eyes, deep and dark and lovely. That's very romantic, Amanda said politely. It was a different time, Fiona sighed. People courted then, took time to know each other's hearts before making commitments. She glanced at the children, who were absorbed in examining their gifts. "They're delightful, Amanda, so well-mannered. Thank you." Despite her reservations about Fiona's appearance at the park, Amanda couldn't help but be pleased by the genuine warmth the older woman showed toward her children. "I don't suppose," Fiona began, then stopped herself. No, I'm intruding on your family time. Forgive me." "What is it, Fiona?" Amanda asked, resigned to hearing whatever request was coming. "It's just, there's a lovely ice cream parlor just across from the park, the one with the striped awning. I thought perhaps I might treat the children, and you, of course, to a cone before I continue my walk. A small thank you for brightening an old woman's Sunday." Amanda glanced at her children, who had perked up at the mention of ice cream, their eyes hopeful. She sighed inwardly, recognizing that refusing now would make her the villain in their eyes. "I suppose we could have a quick ice cream," she conceded. "But then we need to head home for lunch." "Wonderful!" Fiona clapped her hands together in delight. "It's been so long since I've had the pleasure of treating children to sweets. Gloria's children are teenagers now, far too cool to be seen, with their grandmother at an ice cream parlor." As they walked toward the shop, Emma slipped her small hand into Fiona's, chattering about school and her favorite flavors of ice cream. Noah remained close to Amanda, still shy around the elderly woman, but his eyes were curious rather than fearful. The ice cream parlor was busy with families enjoying the warm day, but they managed to find a small table near the window. As they ate their cones, chocolate for Emma, strawberry for Noah, vanilla for Amanda, and butter pecan for Fiona, Amanda observed the way Fiona interacted with her children. There was nothing inappropriate or concerning in her behavior. On the contrary, she seemed genuinely interested in their stories, asking thoughtful questions and listening attentively to their answers. "My garden has a special section just for butterflies," Fiona was telling Emma, who had been studying butterflies in her science class. "Different plants that attract different species. In the spring and summer, it's a regular butterfly haven." "Can I see it someday?" Emma asked, looking to Amanda for permission. "Perhaps," Amanda said non-committally. "We'll have to see how our schedules work out." "Of course," Fiona agreed quickly. "No pressure at all. The garden will be there whenever. You have time." She turned to Noah, who was carefully licking his cone to prevent drips. "And for you, young man, I have a small collection of fossils that might interest a scientist like yourself. Gerald found some remarkable specimens during his Geological Society outings." Noah's eyes widened. "Real dinosaur fossils?" Fiona leaned forward with a twinkle in her eye. "Well, not the real bones, you know, the ones that rattle around in a museum, but replicas of the ones Gerald admired so much. I have a few that he treasured, and I thought you might like to see them sometime." Amanda forced a smile as she sipped her vanilla ice cream, watching the children chatter excitedly with Fiona. The way the elderly woman so effortlessly charmed them both filled Amanda with conflicting emotions. A part of her still yearned to comfort Fiona in her loneliness, while another part of her trembled at the thought of being drawn too deep into this fragile world. For a few moments, silence fell over the table. The pleasant hum of conversation from nearby tables in the parlor and the gentle clink of ice cream spoons provided a soft counterpoint to Amanda's swirling thoughts. She considered Gloria's warnings and wondered if perhaps Fiona's need for connection was genuine, or whether she was simply weaving fantasies to fill the emptiness left by years of isolation and loss. Yet the sight of Emma's bright smile and Noah's curious gaze made her heart soften. After they finished their cones, Fiona carefully gathered the empty cups and placed them aside, leaning in conspiratorially. "Amanda, I have a small request, if I may be so bold." Her tone was gentle but insistent. Amanda hesitated for a moment. "What is it?" she asked, keeping her voice calm. "I know we agreed on coffee on Monday at Marino's, but there's something I'd like to share with you. Before then, I have some old scrapbooks and memorabilia from the early days of my marriage with Gerald, letters, postcards, even newspaper clippings about the town festival we once won together. I was hoping you might come by and help me organize them." The request, though laden with nostalgia and longing, tugged at Amanda's sense of responsibility. On one hand, it was a chance to help a lonely soul piece together memories of a love long past. On the other, it promised to draw her further, into Fiona's world, a world that was already proving overwhelming. Still, the children's joyful acceptance of Fiona's small gifts and the genuine interest flickering in Fiona's eyes softened Amanda's resolve. "I can try to make some time," she replied carefully. "Maybe next weekend." Fiona's face lit up as if a long-forgotten hope had been rekindled. "Next weekend would be wonderful, dear. I understand if your schedule is tight, but even a little help would mean so much." As they parted ways outside the ice cream parlor, Fiona's gentle farewell contrasted with the persistent determination in her eyes. Amanda walked away with mixed feelings. The encounter had been sweet and unexpected, yet it carried an undercurrent of responsibility she wasn't sure she could fully bear. With each encounter, Fiona's emotional neediness seemed to intensify, yet the warmth in her gaze, especially when speaking of Gerald, made it hard for Amanda to simply say no. That evening, as the sky turned a deep indigo and the city lights began to twinkle on, Amanda sat at her kitchen table. The remnants of dinner lay untouched as she scrolled through a series of text messages from Fiona, apologies, compliments, and quiet confessions of loneliness, interspersed with updates about her day. A message caught her eye. "I found another letter from Gerald today. It reminded me of our early days. I wish you could see the joy it brought me." The words, so tender and raw, stirred something within her, a pang of empathy and a touch of guilt. Amanda's mind replayed the past few days in rapid succession. There had been moments of genuine connection when Fiona's stories of decades spent with a devoted husband seemed to shimmer with the beauty of lost time. Then there were the times when Fiona's tone shifted abruptly to one of despair and accusation, as if the loneliness and the looming shadow of dementia blurred her reality. In one of her later phone calls, Fiona had admitted, almost in a whisper, that she felt invisible without Gerald. In another, she insisted that her memories were under threat from a world that had moved on without her. Amanda's thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Glancing at the clock, she realized it was nearly 10 in the evening, a time when her children were asleep and her apartment should have been quiet. She opened the door to find Gloria standing there, her expression a mixture of concern and determination. "I'm sorry to drop by unannounced," Gloria began, her voice low. "I just needed to see you and talk about something important." Amanda stepped aside, and Gloria entered, closing the door behind her. They sat in the living room, the only light coming from a modest lamp that cast warm shadows on the walls. Gloria's eyes held the weariness of someone who had been fighting battles on multiple fronts. "Amanda, I know you've been trying to be kind to my mother," Gloria said softly, choosing her words with care. "But I'm worried you're being pulled into a vortex of her emotions. It's hard for me to see her like this, so desperate, so unmoored. I don't want you to lose yourself in her grief." Amanda sighed, running her hand through her hair. "Gloria, I care about your mother. I can't just abandon someone who's hurting." "I know that," Gloria replied, her tone earnest. But you have responsibilities. Your children, your work. I fear that every time you try to help, you end up being the shoulder for her endless sorrow. I understand she's lonely, but this isn't healthy for either of you." Gloria paused, letting the words settle between them. "I'm not asking you to cut her off completely. I just want you to be cautious. Please, Amanda, promise me that you won't let her emotional needs override your own." Amanda looked into Gloria's steady gaze, recognizing the genuine concern in her eyes. "I promise I'll be careful," she said. "I appreciate your honesty, Gloria. I really do." Gloria nodded, relief mingling with sadness. "I'll always be here if you need help or if things get too heavy. We're family, after all." With a soft smile, she stood and hugged Amanda briefly before leaving. In the quiet that followed, Amanda felt the weight of the day settle upon her. The conversation with Gloria had been a necessary confrontation, a reminder that kindness must be balanced with self-care. She wondered if her next encounter with Fiona would be less fraught, if the boundaries she tried to set could eventually lead to a healthier relationship. The next Monday arrived with a chill that hinted at winter's approach. Amanda met Fiona at Marino's as agreed, the restaurant bustling with early lunch chatter. They settled into a corner booth, away from the noise. Fiona arrived a little early, her hands folded tightly over a worn leather portfolio containing her precious memorabilia. Over steaming cups of coffee and slices of warm, buttery bread, Fiona laid out her collection of scrapbooks and letters with a reverence that brought tears to Amanda's eyes. Each page chronicled moments of a life rich with love, laughter, and shared hardships. Fiona's voice trembled as she recounted the story behind a faded love letter from Gerald, written on paper that had long since yellowed with time. Amanda listened intently, her heart aching for the depth of loss Fiona carried. She offered gentle comments and asked clarifying questions, trying to navigate the delicate balance between empathy and maintaining her own boundaries. At one point, Fiona's hand brushed against Amanda's, a silent plea for connection that spoke volumes. Amanda pulled her hand away slightly, a subtle reminder that while she cared deeply, her own life was not to be sacrificed. As the meeting came to a close, Fiona smiled, a bittersweet expression that conveyed both gratitude and lingering sorrow. "Thank you for sharing this time with me, Amanda. I know it's not easy, and I don't mean to burden you." "It's not a burden, Fiona," Amanda said carefully. "I appreciate you trusting me with these memories. But I also need to be honest. I have a busy life, and sometimes it's hard for me to balance everything." Fiona nodded, her eyes softening with acceptance. "I understand, dear. I only ask for friendship, nothing more. And if ever it becomes too much, please tell me." The promise hung in the air between them, fragile yet sincere. As they parted ways outside Marino's, Amanda felt both relief and apprehension. The meeting had been cathartic, but it also underscored the intricate web of emotions that bound her to Fiona, a web that could easily entangle her if she wasn't vigilant. In the weeks that followed, Amanda took Gloria's advice to heart. She continued her weekly coffees with Fiona, but remained steadfast about her time limits. When Fiona asked for assistance organizing memorabilia or invited her to impromptu outings, Amanda politely explained her constraints. She encouraged Fiona to attend her grief counseling sessions and even arranged for a social worker to visit occasionally. Fiona's responses were mixed, gratitude tempered by occasional bouts of bitterness. But gradually, Amanda sensed a slight shift. Fiona began to rely less on daily calls and more on the structured support systems that Gloria had recommended. One crisp autumn evening, as Amanda tucked her children into bed after a long day, her phone buzzed with a message. It was from Fiona, simply stating, "Thank you for being my friend, Amanda. I know I'm difficult sometimes, but I'm learning to let go a little. Gerald would have been proud." Amanda stared at the message, feeling a warmth spread through her. It was as though, in that brief note, Fiona had acknowledged both her own struggles and Amanda's gentle strength. In that moment, Amanda understood that while Fiona's path was laden with sorrow, it was also one of resilience. She wasn't responsible for healing Fiona completely, but she could be a supportive presence, a friend who offered compassion without sacrificing her own well-being. Amanda looked out at the quiet night, the distant hum of the city, a reminder of life's constant motion. She realized that every person, no matter how different their story, craves connection and understanding. And sometimes, all it takes is a small act of kindness, a shared coffee, a listening ear, to help someone find a glimmer of hope in the darkness. The days turned into weeks, and slowly the tumultuous storm of Fiona's emotions began to calm. Amanda continued to navigate the delicate dance of compassion and self-care, ever mindful of the boundaries she had set. In time, Fiona started to appreciate the structure of her support network, and the overwhelming neediness receded to a more manageable level. Their friendship, built on tentative trust and mutual respect, grew into something bittersweet and real, a testament to the unpredictable nature of human connection. And so, in the quiet moments between hectic days and sleepless nights, Amanda learned that kindness need not come at the cost of one's own well-being. In embracing both her empathy and her limits, she forged a path that honored the memories of the past, while gently guiding both herself and Fiona toward a future where loneliness, though never fully erased, could be met with understanding and hope. Congratulations, type 9 in the comments so that I know you stayed until the end with me. Thank you for watching, and until tomorrow's story on this same channel.